Welcome back to another video. My name is Michael. I'm the founder of Buffalo Performance and Analysis, where we combine sports science, strength and conditioning, and sports performance to give coaches the tools necessary to build the next level of elite athletes. In this video, I'm doing a Power BI tutorial on how to create a sports science dashboard that works off of my soccer performance data. So we're going to break it down and we're going to go over all the steps that I use to create this dashboard right here. So the first thing that we're going to do, obviously starting with a blank slate, is oftentimes a white background is kind of dull. So we're going to kind of change that up a little bit. We're going to go under the visualizations, format your report, and then we're going to go under the wallpaper here, and we can pick any color we want. I'm just going to go with this one right here. Just a little bit of a gray tint to it makes it a little bit less dull. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to insert an image. I'm using the Buffalo Performance and Analysis logo. All you're going to do is go under Image, under the Insert tab, and insert whatever image you want to utilize. So once you have it inserted, you can adjust it, the size and location wherever you want to place it. We're going to put it in the upper left hand corner and kind of try to make it as small as possible to maximize the space that we have in our visualization. Alright, so looking back at our original dashboard, we're going to start up here with these three right here. So the name, session type, and date. So these are all going to be considered slicers. So we'll come over here to our new page and we're going to select the slicer, which is going to be this one right here, slicer, and we need the athlete name. So we'll click and drag name into the field, and there you go. So it's going to populate it just like this. And from here, we're going to make some adjustments to make it a drop-down list and to just make it look a little bit neater. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go under the visual tab right here. We're going to go under slicer settings, and instead of a vertical list, we're going to utilize a drop-down. This is going to help us minimize the space that we need, and it makes it look a little bit cleaner. We're also going to go under the slicer header right here, and the text is name, and then we're going to make this bold. We're also going to increase the size of the font. I think we're going to make it 15 is pretty good there, and then we can just click and drag to adjust the size just like that. And then we need to create a border background, otherwise it's just this white to gray, so we want a black background, so we'll go ahead and add that. So to add a border, we're going to just select our visualization. We're going to go under General, hit Effects, scroll, Visual Border, and turn it on just like that. And now we have a black border just like that. Now we're going to copy and paste this 3 times, or 2 times rather. So we have the name, and then what we need to do is all we'll have to do is change the value. So we have session type and date. So I'm going to scoot this one over, I'll scoot this one over, and this one right here. So now we know that they're all formatted the same way, the font is the same, and the size of the visualization is the same. And then all we have to do here is, instead of name, we need the session type. So I'll click and drag session type here. We have session type, and then the same thing here is we're going to need the date. So click and drag date, and there we go. We have our drop down of the name, session type, and the date. So once we've created our slicers, next we're going to move on and work on these little callout cards right here. Throughout the course of this visualization, we're going to be working a lot with averages. So we see average stress level, average sleep score, and soreness. And then we want to keep it consistent. So when we look at acceleration, deceleration, soreness, and then max speed, all of this is going to be averages. I think that's kind of the easiest way to look at things, and then it also makes it the easiest to kind of drill down. If I'm looking at games versus practices, or if I'm looking at a specific date, I think averages is going to be the best option to use, at least for this visualization. So to create the call cards, we're going to select our card visualization right here. And we need to utilize 3 of these. So we need the stress will be our first one here. And then it auto-populates it as the sum of stress. So it's adding all of the stress values into one number. Again, we want the average, so we're just going to select this little arrow right here. It's going to let us pick what we want. So if we want average, do we want the minimum, maximum, standard deviation, a bunch of different options. Like I said, we're going to use the average. So we're going to select average, and then it shows us we have the average of stress. Moving on past that, we're going to kind of format this a little bit more so it looks a little bit neater. We're going to go ahead and turn off the category label, which is this label at the bottom. We know that we're working with our stress value, so I can come over here to the callout value, and in a second here we're going to adjust the color, but first what we're going to do is go under general. We're going to turn on the title, and the title here, the text of it is going to be stress, just like that. And then we want to make this bold, and we're going to center our alignment there. So from here we're going to go ahead and change the background color. We're going to go under effects, background. It's going to give us the option of the color. We're going to select this red color right here. All right, and so now we can go ahead and turn off our category label here, just like that. And then our callout value, the black on red doesn't look too clean, so we're going to switch it to white. So now our callout value is white, and then we'll adjust the title. So our title is white. And let's actually go ahead and change this from stress to stress level, just like that. And it doesn't need to be bold. And then we can adjust the size here, just like that. A little bit larger maybe. And then the last thing that we're going to do is add another visual border here. And then we have it as a black border rather. You can go ahead and change that if you wanted to. If you wanted to change the color of the border, you can. If you wanted a white border, or you can even kind of change the shape of the border. So if you wanted it to have some rounded corners, instead of having it perfectly squared, it can kind of have these rounded corners. Up to you how you want to create the visualization. I'm going to go ahead and reset it so it's just the way we normally had it. So here. All right. And same thing with that we did with our slicers. I'm going to copy and paste this 2 more times, and then all we'll do is change the value from stress level and then to sleep score and to our soreness level. So here from stress level, we don't need stress anymore. We're going to put in our sleep score, and then it's going to switch over to the sum again. So we'll change it to the average, and then this one will change to soreness, average of soreness, and then we'll go back and change the titles here. Sleep score and soreness. So now that we have our slicers and our call cards put in place, we're going to look back at our original dashboard, and now we're going to work on this visualization here. So our acceleration, deceleration, and soreness. So to create this one, we're going to need a stacked column chart as well as a line chart or line graph. So we'll create the visualization here, and we'll make it a little bit larger. And then on our x-axis, we're looking at this over time. So we'll click and drag date into the x-axis. It gives us year and it gives us quarter. The data that I've provided for the soccer performance data is just within 1 year, so year isn't too important. So we can just hit the little X, removes it. And then same thing with quarter, we're not too worried about the quarter here. Looking at the column, we want to look at acceleration and deceleration counts. So we're going to go ahead and select acceleration count and deceleration count. And again, it looks at the sum. So we're going to go ahead and change this to average of acceleration and average of decel. Then moving past that, we're looking at how soreness is correlated with the count of acceleration and deceleration. So we're going to click and drag soreness into our line y-axis, but we need to change that one as well to average. Okay, so now we've done that. So now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and change the color, the background, and the title to make it look a little bit cleaner. So when we're working with a column and line graph, it's really important that we have our secondary y-axis on. If I turn it off, we're going to see the average of soreness drops down here because it's using the left side axis here as the range. So obviously our soreness is going to be a lot lower than our acceleration or decel counts. So by turning on the secondary y-axis, it's creating a new range here on the right side that's for the sum of, or the average of soreness rather. So it just kind of makes it look, it makes the data look more transparent. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and fix our column colors. So we're going to here under columns, this is under the visuals here, and we're going to look at the average of accelerations. We want this one to be red, and then average of decel, we want this one to be black. And then we can reverse stack order if we wanted to, and that's going to flip them, right? So now we have the decels on the bottom and accels on the top. Just kind of depends on how you want to portray the data. I want to have it with decels on the bottom. And then we're going to scroll over to lines. We're going to change the color of the line. We're going to scroll over here to colors. Change the color here. We're going to use this one here. It's going to be the 20% or 60% rather lighter under the red. And what I'm trying to do throughout the course of this visualization is selecting colors that kind of reflect the logo. So Buffalo Performance and Analysis, we're looking at white, black, and this kind of maroon or red. So I'm trying to pick colors that are going to reflect that throughout this visualization. So now that we have the colors set up just like this, we need to work on the title because that is a mess. So to do that one, we're going to go under General, go to Titles, and then we're going to change the text here, and we're going to look at, we're just going to call it Acceleration, Deceleration, and Soreness. So just like that, and then you can kind of play around with the font. We're going to make it bold. If you want to enlarge it, you can. If you want to center it, you can. I'm going to keep it left justified there. But we're going to want to go again to Effects. Background is fine here, but we're going to add a visual border so it kind of makes it pop a little bit more. And there you go. So we've completed our acceleration, deceleration, and soreness graph. Now we're going to move on to the correlation between distance, soreness, and max speed that we see here at the bottom right. So we're going to go ahead back to our new dashboard, and here, we don't need stacked column anymore. So we're just going to use the line and clustered column chart graph here. Move it over a little bit, and I think it needs to be a little bit wider here. And then same thing here, we're going to need the date on the x-axis. We don't need year and quarter. And then for the column, we want to look at the distance and change that from sum to average. And then we need to take a look at max speed and soreness. So we're going to put max speed, not under the column legend, but under the y-axis there. And then we're also looking at the soreness under the line y-axis, and then changing both of those to average. So now that we have our graph kind of formulated, let's go ahead and change some of the colors. I want to create the column colors to have one color if it is a practice session and then a different color if it's a game. There is a way in Power BI to use conditional formatting to do this. However, I have not figured out how to do that yet, so I'll go ahead and kind of show you what I used so far. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and change the color of the graphs to this dark red, and then I'm going to hit show all. From here, I'm going to go under session type since we already have our slicer set up, and I'm going to hit game, and now it's going to show me the two game sessions. So from here, I'm just going to change these to black and black. All right, and then I can go ahead and clear the slicer and it'll show me all of them. From there, we'll go ahead and change the colors of the lines. So under visual, we'll scroll to lines, and then under colors, the average of soreness is going to be this kind of light red here, and then the average of max speed is going to be this kind of darker gray. And that's still a little bit difficult to see, so let's actually go ahead and switch those two like that, and it makes it a little bit easier to see our average of soreness and average of max. From there, we'll go under general, we'll change our title, and we are looking at distance, max speed, and soreness, so we'll just go ahead and change that so it's a much more simple title. And make sure you spell correctly. So now that we've created our slicers, our call cards, our graphs for acceleration, deceleration, and soreness, as well as our distance, max speed, and soreness, now we have to create our scatter plot. Now, because our scatter plot is looking at the relationship between stress and sleep quality, a lot of these data points are in half point intervals. So 4, 4.55 up to 8, and then 6, 6.5 up to 9. Because of that, when we look at the data points, there's going to be a lot of overlap, and the data points are actually stacked on top of each other, and so it doesn't really show the full picture. Because of that, we're actually not going to be using Power BI's scatter plot function. We're actually going to be using R to be doing that. So I'm going to pull up my R Studio, and we're using dplyr and tidyverse. And so what we need to do here is we need to find the Pearson's R correlation, but because there are NA values in the data set, we need to use the phrase use complete OBS. So when we run that line of code there, it gives us our Pearson's R. And so this is what I was talking about. If I were to just run a regular scatter plot, looking at R here, this is the graph that it gives us. And this obviously isn't the full picture. There's obviously going to be a bunch of overlapping data points, and this doesn't really portray much. And so because of that, there's a ggplot function called geom_jitter that gives a little bit of variation to the data. It's artificial variation, but it makes the data appear more kind of varied, and so it shows a better picture. So we're going to utilize our geom point with geom_jitter, and then we're using a geom smooth, so we're using a linear model to kind of show the best fit line. We're going to use a red best fit line there, and then we're adding text using the annotate function here. The label of that is going to be r equals negative 0.86, and that also is going to be red. So then when we go from this graph right here, then using geom_jitter, when we run this one here, it's going to give us this graph right here. So it shows a little bit of variation, and it really portrays a better picture regarding the relationship between stress and sleep quality. So then after you've created that visualization in R, all you're going to do is export it. You're going to save it as an image, and then just like we did with the logo, we come over here, you're just going to import it as you're going to go under insert, hit image, and you're going to insert that image into your dashboard. Now there is a way in Power BI to write an R script or a Python script into your Power BI dashboard. I have not had much luck figuring out how to use that, and all the tutorials that I've watched have not been the biggest help. So this is kind of the band-aid fix for the time being of how we can use it. Unfortunately, because we're importing it as an image and it's coming from R, whenever we look at a specific athlete's name, all of our other dashboards are correlated with that names slicer, and so it's going to show us that athlete's individual values. However, the sleep quality and stress is not going to adjust, and it's not going to show us that change as we're looking at the team to an individual's data point. But that's just kind of a look at how we can use Power BI to create a sports science dashboard. I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out the data set on Kaggle Soccer Performance Data. I have two versions of it now. One is kind of the cleaned version of it. The second is the dirty that has some missing values and a little bit more variation. So go ahead and check that out. Create some R script, create some Power BI dashboards, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks.